In this video, I'm going to be shooting a valve adjustment for my 1984 Honda Interceptor VF500F. The reason I wanted to shoot this video is because I couldn't find any other videos of a high-definition video of somebody performing this. So while there are probably more people that are well qualified to shoot this video, I couldn't find them. Anyway, to get to this point, you got to take quite a bit off. It's sort of an intimidating procedure, but the procedure itself shouldn't be that hard outside of that the access is pretty difficult. But I had to take the seat off, had to take the airbox off, had to take the fuel tank off, took the carburetor off, and the valve covers are now sitting inside of my new toy, my ultrasonic cleaner over there. There's two engine covers that need to come off, clutch cover over here, so the clutch is hanging off of this, hydraulic clutch there, engine cover there, scraped all the gasket off. And something I'm not going to be doing in this video, but would need to come off if you want to do it, by the way the manual says, is to pull this sight, sight area off. So it's quite a bit to pull off, but once you're there, we're able to do this valve adjustment. They are locknut-type. It's not bucket and shim, which makes this a whole lot better for us to do. The tools we're going to be using, a breaker bar with a 14 socket on it. You could do this with a ratchet. Honda recommends some special tools. I've got not the Honda manual, but I think it's a climber manual. A box end wrench. This is probably not exactly what I want. I also have this Motion Pro tool with a 3mm square end on it. This part will come in handy. This part, because of the clearances, will not. So while doing the Suzuki Bandit GSF 600 was far more simple than this because the access was way easier on an inline 4, this one's going to be more difficult. So I've actually tested a couple, and an 8mm wrench I think is going to be able to get us there. The method I'm going to be doing, there's several different methods that I've found. There's the DD, the Dave Dodge method, I think Dave Dodge, something like that. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to be using the 2 feeler gauge method, which is the same one I did on the Suzuki Bandit. This makes the most sense to me to do, so I need 2 feeler gauges in order to do that. And I've already tested these valves, or checked the valve clearances. I'm going to show you how to do it, but it's a good thing I am doing this because there are several that are super tight, and I'm risking burning up the valves at this point and really hurting the engine. The cylinder layout is kind of weird how they number them, but it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've been trying to memorize this in my head, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we're going to be actually looking at is the clearances between the valve tappet and the place that it is contacting. So what the breaker bar is for is we're going to be putting it on here. It's 14mm. You always want to move in the direction of travel. And as I spin that, we'll see that the cams will be moving and the valves will move up and down. And the reason I'm not worried about the sight glass, so the reason, I shouldn't say sight glass, it's not really a sight glass, but the way that the manual is going to tell you to do this is to put this in top dead center at 180 degrees off. You're going to be able to do, what is it, 3 of them that way, 3 of them that way, or 4 of them that way, 4 of them that way. But what we can see is that as I'm spinning it, the area we're going to be measuring, let's move this a little bit. The area we're going to be measuring is right there, is where we're going to want to get a feeler gauge under. I'll try to get a better shot of that. But basically, as we're moving this around, that eccentric cam is going to push down on the valves and open them once every 360 degrees. So we cannot measure the valves if the eccentric cam is pushing down on the valves, because there won't be any clearance at that point. We need to measure it. So right now we cannot measure it. We need to wait till now, when we can measure it. We can get a feeler gauge in there now. If we wait till the eccentric cam is pushing it, we cannot. All right, so forget the sight glass. All we got to do is get it to this point when it is not pushing it. The exhaust valves on this bike are, so the exhaust, and then in the front, exhaust. Those are supposed to be 5,000s. The intakes here and here are supposed to be 4,000s. So I've checked these on my intakes on cylinder number 1. They are way out of spec. I can't even get a feeler gauge under this one, which means it's basically always touching. And I got 0.0025, and that's supposed to be 0.004. The intakes on this side are super tight. One of the intakes, or one of the exhausts, is super tight. And then I've got 2 exhausts that are super loose right here. So I've got a bunch of adjusting I've got to do. And now that I've showed you how we're going to be rotating around, we're going to be working on cylinder number 3, these 2. Now, you always want to prefer loose rather than tight, but I've got so these are supposed to be 0.004. I am good with 0.005, but I've got what I would call a tight 0.006 on this one. And I'm gonna bring this to a 0.005. So let's set up a better camera angle and do that one. All right, so it's time to take a measurement. We're gonna take a measurement on cylinder number 3 on the intake. So there's this rocker arm with these 2 tappets here. We're gonna be measuring the clearance between the tappet bolt, whatever it might be called, and what pushes down on the valve stem. So as we turn it around, this cam here is going to push those down. So we want to measure this when the cam is not pushing at all, when that eccentric cam is allowing the valves to fully close, and close is all the way up. So I'm going to set a state here. This is about as good as I can do. Right there. And I'm going to spin it around so you can see it. So we can see the actual motion of that cam opening and closing those valves. And we want that cam to not be pushing. So at this point, it is not pushing. If I keep going, it's going to start pushing there. It's starting to push now. It's pushing now, and now it is closed. So at this point, I am good to measure. So I'm going to need a feeler gauge. We know that these are supposed to be at 4,000s. So with the feeler gauge, I'll get in there and see, can I fit my 4,000s? Easy. 4,000s? Easy. What about 5,000s? Can I fit a 5,000s in there? Well, not as easy. That would probably be 5,000s right there. That's a pretty tight magnetic feel right there. I would call that one at 5,000s. This one, much easier. So this is more loose. The right one is more loose than the left one. What if we went up to 6,000s? On the left one, we are not getting 6,000s in. So I would call that one 5,000s. And on this one, if we push real hard, we can get it in. That's what I call a tight 6,000s. So 6,000s is in there, it's not in there. So left one, we've got 5,000s. The right one, I would call a tight 6,000s. I would prefer both these be at 5,000s. So what I'm going to do is do an adjustment where I need to loosen this lock nut here, and then I can take my 3mm, I don't know, whatever that Motion Pro tool is, adjust this, tighten down the lock nut to get this one to 5,000s, lock it up, and then the valve is adjusted. So it's time to perform the actual adjustment. Hopefully the lighting is better at this point. One of the tricky parts about this is this oil line gets in the way. This is actually the reason, well, not even the whole reason, this Motion Pro tool will not work. You can't Well, you're not going to get onto that one, and you can't get onto that one. All right, so you think maybe a deeper box end wrench will work on this one, but you're not going to get on that one. So what I found is that a little 8mm wrench is going to work. So what we're going to do is loosen this lock nut here. And when we do that, you have to reset it after this. As soon as we loosen the lock nut, I'm going to loosen it now. That bolt is likely going to move with it. Now that bolt has a 3mm square on the top of it. So as I move that counterclockwise, I've made my tolerance way bigger. So I'm going to fit, whatever I want inside of there. And as I bring it in, actually it doesn't take much. I just lock. Oh, I didn't lock myself out. I will now. Okay. So that's how we're going to be adjusting these valves, the valve clearance. All right. So why this is a 2 feeler gauge method. I have a 5/1000 stuck under this other one that I know is at 5/1000. The reason I do that is so that when I'm adjusting this one, in case there's any pivot in that rocker arm, that 5/1000 sitting under there is going to make sure it's not going to pivot to allow me more than 5/1000 to travel. Okay, so now that I've got that loose, I want to make sure that I've got a nut. Okay, I bring the nut out a little bit, actually quite a bit, so that the nut won't impede the travel as I put my 5/1000s under there. And God, if this tool was 1 centimeter longer, it would be so much better because it can barely reach it. All right, so I'm going to bring it down and tight. All right, so now I'm tight. Basically, I can't quite. All right, so I just locked the feeler gauge in there by tightening it up too much. All right, that's too tight. So I back it out a bit. I'm looking for this kind of magnetic feel. On my 5/1000s under here. Right about there. Okay, that's where I want it. So why this thing is important, because it's got a good place to grip on it, so I can provide some counter torque when I go to lock this bolt down. Righty-tighty, okay. So I'm gonna tighten up that nut. If you don't do it with one of these, when you torque this, it ends up moving that bolt a little bit and it ends up getting tighter than you expect. So I provide a little bit of counter torque. Make sure it doesn't move. All right, so tight to there. All right, now can I still move this? There's a lot of trial and error in this. Can I still move that? That feels all right. That might actually still be a little loose. Can I fit my 6 inside? 6 fits fine. So, all right, I gotta try that again. All right, let's loosen that nut. There we go. Loosen that nut, pull that out, grab the 5/1000s, and try it again. Promise I won't make you sit through all of these if I don't get it on this one, because usually it takes me like 3 or 4 tries on each one. Okay, right there. Yes. Okay, let me grab this. I gotta loosen my nut a little bit. Tighten. Tighten right there. Okay. And now I want this to go slightly tighter, so I'm gonna hopefully let it tighten it a little bit. Let's see. How was that? Can I still move it? Oh yeah. I think that's gonna be where we wanna be. What about that 6? Okay. Nope. 6 does not fit anymore, but 5 fit all right. That's where I want to be. So I could probably ram this home if I really pushed it, but 6 doesn't really fit. So that's it. Woo! This is the reason I keep this magnet around, so I can grab it. All right, so got 5,000s and we got 5,000s. That is the adjustment on one of the 16 valves. Now we just got to do the other 15. So that is the valve adjustment on this bike. One of the things I usually do after I adjust one of these is I'll come over here and just to kind of verify that everything went like I expected it to, and it will stay like I expected it to, I'll spin it a couple times and let's go see, do we still have the same measurement there after we've spun it a couple times? So I want to make sure. All right, cam is pushing. Oh, I didn't take my feeler gauge out. Okay, not pushing. Can I still get my 5,000ths in there? Coming over, grab my 5. 5 is, oh, that feels nice. That's where I wanted it. Take that one out. Sorry, don't do it with the other feeler gauge still in there. Take that thing out. But 5,000ths, 5,000ths. This one is where I want it right now. Now I got to get the rest of the engine. But that's how I would perform a valve adjustment on this. Personally, I don't think I would mess with this. It's such a pain in the nuts to try to see through this thing and line up the left, not left fire, the left top dead center and the right top dead center. The reason you would do that is because you can get 4 of them and then 4 of them without moving the engine again. But since we're already here, you could spin the thing freely. This cam has a lobe, and on the rest of it, it's all the same radius. So I don't see why you would have to care about this. Just keep spinning it until that cam is not pushing on the valves. Then you can measure them, then you can adjust them. Hopefully this is useful to somebody. I'm guessing I made some mistakes, but quite frankly, I found that I had some super tight valves, so at the very least, I'm doing the engine some good, hopefully. Thanks for watching.